Hello everyone, welcome back to another Deck Tech. Today we are going to be doing Commodore Guff. Guff is a Jeskai 1 5 loyalty Planeswalker. He says at the beginning of your end step, put a loyalty counter on another target Planeswalker you control. His +1 says make a 1/1 red wizard that can tap to add a red, but only for Planeswalker spells. And his -3 is you draw X cards and he deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of Planeswalkers you control, and he can just straight up be your commander. So we are going to be doing Jeskai Superfriends. Here's a disclaimer. This deck list was made prior to knowing what the precon has in it, so prices will be inaccurate on some cards if reprinted, and will exclude cards that are new to the precons just because I don't know about them. They're just not out yet. Anyways, why play him? He's a very interesting walker build. He offers like mana dorks for ramp and walker protection, so you can kind of like use them to, you know, basically as little mana dorks, little red elvish mystics, only for planeswalkers, but we're a planeswalker deck, so it's okay. Or you can use them to block. He offers card draw and direct damage to all opponents. Again, just a -3 coming in. If we have a lot of planeswalkers, so we could just potentially be drawing like a couple, like basically like an extra 4 cards or so on average, maybe just for minusing him, dealing 4 damage to each opponent. That's kind of cool. He's also kind of like a magic lore guy. He's one of Urza's 9 Titans for those of you who also like deal magic books and deal magic lore. So the vulnerabilities go by decks that make a lot of creatures really hurt him, just because they deal a lot of damage to our planeswalkers and we kind of need them. And again, since they can be attacked directly, it makes their ultimates harder to get. It's a bit slower to build up a mean board state just because, you know, they're planeswalkers and they take a little bit of time. You know, you play them and then they have their effects right away, but then like if they stick around, they're really good. And also the deck gets destroyed by Yawgmoth. It just straight up can't beat it. Not really. Just in the lore, Guff got killed by Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth basically became a big death cloud, and then he smoked him out. That's really it. That's just a joke, though. Game plan. We don't really need Guff to win. Like, he's good because he ticks up our planeswalkers, and he makes, you know, just tokens to block and for mana and good card draw. But we don't really need him. Early game, we want to play creatures to protect the walkers before we play them, and then we're going to use the walkers' various abilities really just to deal with various situations. Some of them have removal, some of them bounce, some of them draw, some of them whatever, right? They make tokens, they do everything. And we can kind of just use them to really, whatever mode we need them to do. We can get our planeswalkers to their ultimate ability to win the game. That's really it. We just want to ult them as soon as possible. That's just what planeswalker decks do, and that's what we're going to try and do. So the planeswalkers themselves, Chandra Awakened Inferno is, oh, I love this card so much. 6 mana, 6 loyalty walker. It's kind of rough, but it just can't be countered, and then you can't really respond until the trigger's already on the stack of whatever we want to do. We can +2 it, which is the coolest part. Each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 1 damage to you. So even if you're killed, right, the game is officially on a clock. For those of you who hate longer games, this card is for you. Like, just everyone taking 1, except you, every opponent takes 1 on their upkeep is great. It also is just 3 damage to each non-elemental creature. I run this card in my elemental tribal deck. It's just a tribal nuke, and we don't really care about creatures dying because we don't have that many of them, and we just want to keep our walkers safe. Or if none of those are appealing, we can -X however much we need to deal X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and if they're died, they're just exiled instead. A very cool card. Challenger Torch of Defiance, a Kaladesh All-Star. It's a 4 loyalty walker that has 4 abilities. We can either plus her to exile the top card of our library, and we can cast that card this turn, and if we don't feel like it, deals 2 damage to each opponent. We can get 2 red from her, which is great. We can deal 4 damage to a creature when we -4, or if we get an emblem, whenever you cast a spell, it deals 5 damage to any target. Like, this is like what I say, like when we want to ult planeswalkers, that's how we win the game. Just dealing 5 damage to anyone or anything when you cast a spell. People start at 40 life, that's an 8-turn clock. Dag Vaden is great. He's so cool. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Just kind of good card advantage if you need it. I like his minus ability most just because he comes in turn 3, and at the very worst, he steals someone's soul ring, and that's just good ramp. Or he comes in late game, he loots, or he, so he basically cantrips late game, or he just takes the best artifact on the field. And then if we can somehow ult him, we get an emblem that whenever you cast a spell that targets 1 or more permanents, just gain control of them. Dag Vaden in the lore is a thief, and his card shows it. The Sun's Champion is cool. We're mainly running her. Well, she's really good, honestly. Just using her to make 3 1/1 blockers is unreal. Like, she costs a lot of mana, but 3 1/1 blockers every single turn to keep our Planeswalkers protected is really good. And even if we can't, we can use her as a nuke to destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, so we can get rid of big creatures we can't kill. Like, we can't gang up with our 1/1s, we can kill them all. And if we alter, just creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying. It's not like the ult isn't like really game winning, it can be, but just the fact that we're making so many 1/1s is so good. Narset of the Ancient Way, we can plus her, gain 2 life, and then we can get, you know, any Jeskai color. We can only use to cast non-creature spells. We only have like 13 creatures maybe in the deck, so it doesn't really matter. We can minus her to draw a card, and then we can discard a card if we want. And if we discard a non-land, we deal damage equal to its converted mana cost to a creature or planeswalker, so it's just removal. And if we alter, whenever you get an emblem that whenever you cast a non-creature spell, deals 2 damage to any target. So you're just shocking off of anything else you do. It's still really cool. Narset, Parter of the Veils, very infamous card. Each opponent can't draw more than once each turn. Really good. Or we can -2 her. Well, I guess all we can really do is -2 her. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it in the hand, and put the rest on the bottom in any order. The cool thing about Narset, right, is that we just dig 4. We dig 4 twice, and then we can just keep like pseudo-proliferating it with Guff, but we have other ways to proliferate. But the big effect is each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. It's more of a punish piece, but it does give us a little bit of card advantage by going essentially a total of 8 deep at raw value. Saheeli Sublime Artificer, don't even read the minus ability. The only reason we are running Saheeli, because she says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 servo. That's really it, guys. Like, honestly, that's it. Like, we could use her minus if we just want, like, I don't know, if we want, like we have, like, Contagion Engine and Contagion Clasp later on, so I guess we'd want to make it something later, but just the fact that we make a 1/1 blocker whenever we cast a non-creature spell is really, really good. Sarkhan the Masterless is kind of a fun win con because he says, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. So here's how we can win. We can plus them until end of turn. Each planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature with flying. So the way you run Sarkhan is you play him turn 5 or whenever you play him, and then you minus him right away just for a 4/4 dragon with flying. And honestly, a 5-mana 4/4 dragon with flying isn't even the worst rate. So then when a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature already takes damage. So if it's like a little token, it's not really getting through. But then when our creatures essentially can attack, our planeswalkers can attack, they'll have pseudo haste, I guess. We make them all 4/4 red dragons, and we attack with everything. And again, they're flying 4/4s, so they're kind of annoying to deal with. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. My brothers and sisters that played in OG Dom, let me tell you, this guy was a force to be reckoned with. 5 mana, right? Draw a card, then just untap 2 lands. Already really good. -3 him, put target non-land permanent into its owner's library 3rd from the top. And that gets rid of it for a little bit, and if they have any kind of shuffling effects, they're not getting it back. But even if they don't, like, they're not getting that back for another 3 turns. Or if we ult them somehow, you get an emblem whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent and opponent controls. Just kidding, we're gonna ult these guys pretty frequently. Let's go to the other parts of the Teferi. We have a lot of Teferis. Master of Time is great because you can activate his loyalty abilities whenever. We can plus him to loot, we can minus him to have a creature phase out, or we can -10 him to take 2 extra turns after this one. I really like him just because we can do it on everyone's turn. We can always just loot on everyone's turn and we can phase creatures out. And he gets big really quick. So think of it like this. We're in a pot of 4, right? We have 3 opponents. He's 4 mana. We play him on our turn. We put him to 4 loyalty. Person A goes 5 loyalty. B goes 6 loyalty. Person C goes 7 loyalty. Back to our turn. He has 8 loyalty, right? And like, even if we want to, we can start phasing out creatures so we don't get hurt. He's just so silly. He gets so big so quick. Teferi, Temporal Archmage. He's kind of a big stink. He's 6 mana for 5 loyalty. We plus him, look at the top 2 cards of our deck, put one of our hand, put one on the bottom in any order. And then we have untap up to 4 target permanents. Teferi is kind of cool. One, there's like a little combo with the Chain Veil. You can do a little Chain Veil Soul Ring combo. He's kind of cool. But we'll talk about that later. But you can also just get an emblem with, you may activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control at any player's turn, and any time you can cast an instant. So we can start doing our planeswalker stuff whenever. but he's nice because when we can play him, we can just untap 4 lands to either just make this guy essentially cost 2, or we can wait, like, we can still, like, if he lives till next turn, he essentially can give us, like, 4 extra mana, give some of our guys vigilance. Just untapping 4 permanents is really, really good. Teferi Temporal Pilgrim, one of the newer Planeswalkers I really like. He is 5 mana 4/4. Whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on him, which he works really well with Guff because Guff draws cards equal to the number of Planeswalkers you control. Teferi can draw a card and put a loyalty counter on himself. He can also make a 2/2 blue spirit with vigilance, and whenever you draw a card, you put a 1/1 on him. And then we just have target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to their owner's hand. They shuffle each non-land permanent they control into their library. That just straight up says target player loses the game. Like, honestly, that's what it says. And we can get that relatively easily because, like, think with Teferi Master of Time how much we'll be drawing, right? And how much other, like, draw Guff gives. We can get that effect more easy than you'd think. And then finally, Teferi Time Raveler. Super good card, 3 mana, 4 loyalty. Each opponent can only cast spells at any time they can cast a sorcery. In EDH, this guy's brutal. We can plus him to make our sorcery spells cast at instant speed, or that's basically what it does. But we're mainly just here for him to -3, just bounce an artifact, creature, enchantment, and then we draw a card. But just that passive effect is so brutal. The Wandering Emperor is also really, really cool. Just because it says no more than 1 creature can attack her each combat, so she's kind of hard to deal with. So as long as we can chump block, she's not going away. The main reason to run her, well, we'll get that to us in a second. We can plus her, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature card, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning, and she just blinks a creature or artifact. It doesn't have to be ours, but she just blinks something. We also just zero her for a 2/2 with double strike, which is very cool. And then her -4, which is the big reason to run her, is for each player, choose a creature that player controls. We choose our best creature, and we choose each of our opponent's worst creature, and then they sacrificed all other creatures. She's basically just a nuke that we can, like, repeat pretty frequently, and we don't really care about our creatures too much. Finally, we have Eugene, the Spear Dragon. Just kidding, I know his name's Ugin. We got Ugin. He comes in, he bolts people. He is just a mass exile, board wipe, or if we ult him, again, which really isn't that difficult because he starts at 7 and he has a +2. Like, literally just playing Ugin, +2ing him, and then having Guff give him the extra counter, straight up just ults on our turn. Very cool. Gain 7, draw 7, then put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. If that doesn't win the game, like, I really don't know what does. Let's go into our creatures. Arena Rector, when she dies, you may exile it. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card and put it onto the battlefield. That's probably just Ugin, right? I mean, I feel like Ugin's probably our best walker, but everything else, again, it's whatever situation you're in. Deep Glow Skate is really cool. When he enters the battlefield, double the number of each kind of counter on any number of target permanents. So we're going to double up all the counters on all of our Planeswalkers. So then, like, when he comes in, we're just going to ult all of our Planeswalkers. Jeru with Eyes Open. He's got Vigilance. When he enters the battlefield, search your deck for a Planeswalker, put it into our hand. He's just a tutor. And then if a source would deal damage to a Planeswalker we control, prevent 1 of that damage. So tokens really can't, like 1/1 creature tokens or 1/1s in general, or things dealing 1 damage to our Planeswalkers isn't really going to kill him, which is really cool. And he's just also a 4/3 with Vigilance, so not really a bad rate at all. Flux Channeler, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. We have a lot of non-creature spells. We're primarily non-creature spells, so we're going to proliferate often. Grateful Apparition, flying when it deals combat damage to a player or Planeswalker. Proliferate, again, we want to proliferate our walkers. I like the idea of Kaikar, because Kaikar is a flying 3/3, and whenever we cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 spirit creature token with flying. They're good for blockers, and then we can sacrifice them for just mana if we need to. But my logic with him is the same logic with Saheeli of just being able to make a lot of 1/1s to block, like jump block and stuff to keep our Planeswalkers alive is really good. Laziel, I'm not going to pronounce that. I know she's a Gith Warrior. Doesn't matter. 3/3 for 3, good rate. If you would put 1 or more counters on a creature or Planeswalker you control, or on yourself, put that many plus 1 of each of those. So basically, if we're going to put a counter on something, we're going to add 1 more to that. So Planeswalkers are going to enter with 1 extra counter. When we plus a Planeswalker, it's going to get a whole extra counter. It's good. Mila or Mila, I don't know actually, Crafty Companion is so good. Oh, I have an Atraxa deck and I wish I could run it, but I can't because it's red on the other side. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever an opponent attacks one or more planeswalkers you control, put a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. Like, hold up. And then whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, draw a card. So, like, even if someone, like, if they attack us, our planeswalkers get bigger. And if they try and target them, like any of our stuff, we draw a card. I was thinking when I was making this about adding Luca's backside, because I can't think of a world where you would want to play Luca, but he is a planeswalker, and I thought, just why not? You can discard a card if you do draw a card, and if you discard a creature, you can draw 2 cards. Then we can also minus them to return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield. It gets haste, and then we exile it. And then the -7 is you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. None of these really work super well with our deck just because we're not really a creature deck, and all of the creatures, if you guys can see, are kind of utility based rather than like I'm gonna kill you with them based. Monastery Mentor, we use prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make a 1/1 monk with prowess. Again, just another guy to fill up the board with tokens so we can block with them. And also I kind of like the idea, like if we did want to go wide with them, like they're gonna get +1/+1, they'll be big. Silent Arbiter is really good just because no more than one creature can attack each combat and no more than one creature can block each combat. So ideally someone attacks us with one of their things, we're just going to block with a 1/5, like 5 is a lot of toughness, or we're just going to chump it with a token. But either way, people can't like fully swing out at our planeswalkers. Spark Double is going to enter the battlefield as a copy of one of our planeswalkers with an additional loyalty counter on it, and it's not going to be legendary, so we have another copy of one of our planeswalkers, so it's really cool. Tekuthal, that's how you pronounce it, the Inquiry Dominus. Flying 3/5, if you would proliferate twice. We have a lot of proliferate in this deck. And then we can pay 3, or most likely just 1 and 4 life, remove 3 counters among artifacts, creatures, or planeswalkers you control to make it indestructible. So it'll be nice just to have an indestructible flying, like 3/5 body that doubles up our proliferate. It's really cool. And then Thrumming Bird, when it deals combat damage to a player, just proliferate. It's just a worse ghostly apparition in my opinion, but I really like the art and I think he's cool. Honestly, he's good for the deck, rather more than it's that, Sorceries, call the Gatewatch. Search a library for a Planeswalker card, reveal it, put it in your hand. Sounds good to me, just a hard tutor. Deploy the Gatewatch. Look at the top 7 cards of our library, put up to 2 Planeswalker cards from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of our library in a random order. We have like 16 planeswalkers in this deck, I think. The likelihood of us whiffing going 7 deep isn't that like high. Like we're most likely gonna hit at least 1, but I think at least we'll hit 1. Worst case, we just whiff and that sucks. But best case, we hit like Ugin and like our other big scary planeswalkers. Farewell is cool because we can exile all artifacts, enchantments, graves, or creatures, or all of them all at once. We have a good amount of nukes in this deck just because we don't really care about our creatures living and dying as long as our planeswalkers are living and dying. And if our opponent's board states are getting a little too out of hand, we got to get rid of them. Search for Glory. Search your library for a snow permanent, a legendary card, or a saga card. Reveal it and put it in your hand and shuffle your library. And then we gain a life for each snow mana we spent to cast it. The basics in this deck are snow pretty much just because of this card. I like it because it's 3 mana to just tutor up a legendary card. All planeswalkers are legendary, so it's a tutor for a planeswalker. Or if we need a land or off a color, we can just get a land and we can gain 3 life for it. So I kind of like that idea. Supreme Verdict can't be countered. Destroy all creatures. Sounds good to me. Tezzeret's Gambit is 3 mana. Never pay 4 mana from Tezzeret's Gambit. It's a 3 mana, draw 2 cards. Then we're going to proliferate all of our planeswalkers. Urza's Ruinous Blast. We can only cast it because it's a legendary sorcery. If we have a legendary creature or planeswalker, where a planeswalker deck is, we're going to have it. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So we're just going to get rid of like a whole lot of it. And then Wrath of God just to destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. We don't really care about our creatures. We just don't want our opponents to have creatures and interact with our planeswalkers like at all. Going into instance, counterspell to counterspell, Cyclonic Rift. We're going to pay 7 for that every time just to get rid of everyone's board state but our own. Dovin's Veto, can't be counter a target non-creature spell. If someone's messing with some of our stuff, we're going to counter it. Experimental Augury is neat. Look at the top 3 cards of our library, put one of them in our hand and the rest on the bottom in any order, and then we proliferate. So it's kind of like we just get to dig three deep, take the best one, and then proliferate, and we can do that at instant speed. It's really cool. Generous Gift, just destroy a permanent. They can have a 3/3. Doesn't matter whatever that 3/3 does. We just got rid of whatever we had to get rid of. Reject Imperfection is probably not the best counter spell, but I like the idea that we can proliferate off of it, so I put it in here just because I like it. Serum Snare, kind of the same deal. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and if that permanent had a mana value of 3 or less, then we proliferate. The main idea with those two cards is just to proliferate at instant speed, so then ideally we'll be closer to ulting our Planeswalkers on our turn, if they're like a counter or so away. Swords to Plowshares is this great creature removal. We don't care that they can gain life. We just want to, we don't really win by, I mean, we do care about their life, but our effects are ideally so brutal that the amount of life they gain isn't super relevant. And then Teferi's Protection, just so our permanents phase out and we're just gone. If someone's gonna board wipe our Planeswalkers, they're gonna attack into us or they're gonna die. We can nope out for a quick second. Artifacts, these are all signets. I have pretty much all the signets I can run in here. Well, really just these 4. You'll see the other one in a second. Just because we're in Jeskai, and Jeskai doesn't have great ramp options, so that's what we have. Contagion Clasp. When it enters battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature, pay 4, proliferate. So ideally we can kill a mana dork, but then we can start proliferating later. Contagion Engine is the big one. 6 mana. When it enters battlefield, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature target player controls, which is really cool. And then we're going to proliferate, then proliferate again. So it's cool because Contagion Engine will basically give our opponent's creatures -3/-3. Well, I guess target players' creatures -3/-3, but that's basically a board wipe. Acremoon Gauntlet is the spiciest card. I love it so much. 3 mana. Planeswalkers you control have 2 new loyalty abilities. 0 it to proliferate, and then a -12 it to take an extra turn after this one. The take an extra turn isn't crazy a big deal, but just having our Planeswalkers being all able to proliferate to get just one of them closer to ulting is super, super worth it. And then whenever we choose whenever we cast a non-creature spell, put a counter on a permanent we control. Choose a counter on a permanent, put an additional counter of that. We're gonna choose a loyalty counter, and we're basically it just says proliferate one thing whenever we cast a non-creature. It's so good. Is it Signet? It's just mana. Soul Ring. It's Soul Ring, just more mana. Staff of Completion is cool because we can, it's modal. Pay 1 life, destroy target permanent you own. If someone wants to steal one of our things or someone wants to exile one of our things and we can get it back later, we can get rid of it. Pay 2 life, add a mana of any color, it's good. Pay 3 life, importantly, proliferate. So just being able to do that for 3 life is really good. And we can also just gain life back with Guff anyways, so no harm, no foul. Pay 4 life, draw a card, pay 5 mana, untap it. So we could just basically pass a turn, proliferate, pay 5, untap it, proliferate twice, basically just for 5 mana. It's really, it's whatever we need it to be. It's a good mana rock and a good proliferate. We can draw a card, we can do everything. It's like the Sunday special. Finally, the infamous Chain Veil. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't activate a loyalty ability of a Planeswalker this turn, you lose 2 life. Guys, we are a Planeswalker deck. We are not going to lose 2 life on that. But importantly, it says 4 mana, tap it. For each Planeswalker you control, you may activate one of its loyalty abilities once this turn, as though none of its loyalty abilities have been activated. We just double up our loyalty abilities. It goes infinite with Teferi and the Chain Veil and some things that tap for 2. But since that's an obscure combo, we're not really gonna rely on doing that as a win con. It says we're gonna be able to do our Planeswalker's loyalty abilities once more for 4 mana. Enchantments all will be 1. Super, super spicy. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be 1 deals that much damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or Planeswalker that opponent controls. So our Planeswalkers are going to enter with loyalty counters. Let's use Ugin as an example because I like Ugin and he's easy. Ugin has 7 loyalty counters, so if all will be 1 is on the field and Ugin enters the battlefield, we can now deal 7 damage to a permanent, basically a player, a creature, or a Planeswalker that an opponent controls. 7 damage just for free. And then whenever we put any more counters on any of our planeswalkers, we activate any of their plus loyalty abilities, we'll deal that much damage, like, additionally, so we can start killing creatures if we want to. We can do all this good stuff. It's so cool. Deification, I like the idea of. So when it enters the battlefield, choose a planeswalker type. Planeswalkers you control of the chosen type have hexproof. As long as you control a creature, if damage dealt to the planeswalker you control of the chosen type would result in all loyalty abilities on it being removed, instead all but one of those counters are removed. So the cool thing about this is ideally we can at least have a creature. We can name really whatever planeswalker we want. I like the idea of naming Teferi and Narset just because we have the most Teferis and we have a good amount of Narsets. We could also name Guff, nothing wrong with that. And it just kind of gives them hexproof, and, you know, if they were going to die, they don't die. Elspeth's talent is my favorite of all of the talents. I'm not really super keen on the art, but, you know, it's personal opinion. Enchant Planeswalker, which is cool. Enchanted Planeswalker has +1, create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. That's the same. That's literally Elspeth Sun's Champions plus, and we can give it on any Planeswalker. It's so good. Then, whenever you activate a loyalty ability of Enchanted Planeswalker, creatures you control get +2/+2 and have vigilance until end of turn. That's not super relevant. We're kind of doing it for the blockers, but there's still nothing wrong with just making all our guys like 3/3s at least, and then swinging out. And they have vigilance, so why not? Inexorable Tide, whenever you cast a spell, proliferate. Short, sweet, to the point, just really good. Oath of Gideon, I think is okay. I kind of like the idea of it because it enters the battlefield to make 2 1/1 blockers. And then each planeswalker you control enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it. I like the idea of it just because it makes it easier for us to ult our planeswalkers. And it makes 2 blockers. I don't know. I think it's good. Oath of Teferi is probably the best oath. When it enters the battlefield, exile target permanent you control, or another target permanent you control. Return it to the battlefield at the beginning, its next end step. I usually just generally use that to untap a land. Like I tap lands for it, and then it's whatever. If you have a good blink target, why not? Or you could even hit Oath of Gideon. That's a good blink target. But more importantly, you may activate loyalty abilities of planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only once. That's like the planeswalker's dream, is activating loyalty abilities twice. So it's like an auto include. Rowan's talent is also a very cool talent. It's like the only other one I really like out of the whole cycle. I mean, it's no Elspeth's talent, but anyway, Enchant Planeswalker gets +1 up to 1 target creature you control gains +2/+0 and gets first strike until end of turn and trample. Not relevant. Don't even read that. We're never gonna do it. Whenever you activate a loyalty ability of Enchanted Planeswalker, copy that ability, and you may choose new targets for it. So if you're gonna ult a Planeswalker or anything like that, you can get like 2 emblems, or you could like kind of go nuts with it. And like even like worst case scenario, you can just like double up on some like minus ability for good like extra value. It's good. I think it's cool. Smothering Tithe, we want to have a lot of mana, and it punishes our opponents, so I think it's good. Whirlwind of Thought, we're primarily non-creature, so whenever we cast a non-creature, we'll draw a card. It'll help us stay consistent. And it's on flavor because Narset's a Planeswalker. Going to lands, we have all the check lands. We have, I don't know, Vow Hunt lands. I really don't know what they're called, but they're good. We have all the shock lands. We have all of the Battle Bond lands. And then just for general lands, Command Tower taps for any color. Exotic Orchard almost always taps for any color. Interplanar Beacon is cool because whenever we cast a Planeswalker spell, we're going to gain a life. And then we can pay 1 and then tap it to get 2 mana of different colors, only to cast Planeswalker spells. So it's kind of good filtering. Karn's Bastion just lets us pay 4 mana to proliferate. Maze of Ith, I think, is really cool because we can untap target attacking creature and prevent all damage. So if someone's like attacking us with like a big creature, we can just say, that's not attacking us or one of our planeswalkers. Like, get it out of here. It's just like a good reset on it. Nesting Grounds is cool because we can pay 1, move a counter from target permanent you control onto another permanent you control. You can only do it as a sorcery, which sucks. But it's nice to be able to be like, my Planeswalker is getting close to ulting. Why don't I pay 1 mana and tap this land to move a loyalty counter from this Planeswalker to another Planeswalker, so then it can ult. I just like the idea of it. And then finally for the lands, we have the Triumph and Reliquary Tower. The Triumph's great. It taps for any color, and we can cycle it later on. And Reliquary Tower is good because we have no max hand size. And Guff lets us draw a good amount of cards. Final lands, we just have 5 snow-covered islands, 4 snow-covered mountains, and 6 snow-covered plains. Again, that's just for Search for Glory, so we can tutor for lands if we need to. That's really it. The miscellaneous of the deck came out at $500.03. I actually have to double check it. So that's kind of cool. And the average CMC is 3.67, which is pretty fine because we got a good amount of Cygnus, we got a good amount of ramp. I guess with the signets, Guff makes guys for planeswalkers anyway, and we have like 35, 36 lands. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then comment what you want me comment what you want me to see next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.